Gold and silver are once again drawing significant attention in financial discussions as markets observe another notable surge in both precious metals. The focus of today's report centers on renewed upward movement in gold and silver prices and highlights what informed investors are currently doing in response to these developments. The headline, Gold and Silver Surge Again? What smart investors are doing right now reflects growing interest surrounding the performance of these traditional safe haven assets. Market participants are closely monitoring price activity as both metals demonstrate renewed strength. The developments come at a time when investors are reassessing their strategies and evaluating asset allocation decisions in light of ongoing market conditions. This report examines the latest movements in gold and silver and outlines how experienced investors are positioning themselves amid the recent surge. Attention is centered on observable actions taking place in the investment landscape without speculation or forward-looking projections. The emphasis remains strictly on the present market situation and the responses being seen among those actively participating in precious metals markets. Gold has historically been viewed as a store of value, while silver often attracts interest for both investment and industrial considerations. In the current environment, both metals are again under the spotlight. The renewed price momentum has prompted discussions across financial sectors, with investors reviewing portfolios and making calculated decisions based on prevailing conditions. As market activity unfolds, the central question remains focused on how seasoned investors are responding right now. This report presents a clear and factual overview of the situation, outlining the key developments surrounding the recent surge and the corresponding actions being observed. In the next segment, we move deeper into the details behind this renewed movement in gold and silver, examining the developments more closely and outlining the first phase of the broader market response. Part 2. Continuing from our opening overview, the renewed surge in gold and silver remains the central focus of market attention. The headline clearly indicates that both precious metals are rising again, placing them back into active discussion among investors and financial observers. This development underscores a period in which price momentum has shifted upward, prompting immediate reactions within the investment community. The phrase "surge again" signals that this is not the first instance of notable upward movement. It reflects a recurrence of strengthening prices, bringing gold and silver back into prominence. Such movement naturally draws attention from those who monitor asset performance closely. Investors who follow precious metals markets are observing the renewed climb and assessing its implications within their portfolios. The emphasis, however, remains strictly on the present activity and the actions currently being taken. At the same time, the headline directs attention to what are described as smart investors. This wording highlights a segment of market participants who are responding actively to the surge. Their actions are taking place now, in real time, as gold and silver experience renewed strength. The focus is not on speculation or forecasts, but on observable behavior in the current environment. As gold and silver prices move upward again, investors are evaluating their positions carefully. Some are reviewing existing holdings. Others are assessing whether adjustments are necessary in light of the renewed surge. The process involves measured decision-making rather than reactionary behavior. The emphasis remains on disciplined responses aligned with present market developments. The renewed rise in gold suggests sustained buying interest. Similarly, silver's upward movement indicates active participation in that market as well. Together, these developments have reintroduced both metals into active financial conversation. Market participants are closely tracking price behavior, volume activity, and overall momentum, though no additional assumptions are made beyond the fact of the surge itself. Smart investors, as referenced in the headline, are responding deliberately. Their approach appears grounded in attentiveness to current market signals. Rather than ignoring the renewed surge, they are taking steps aligned with the movement that is unfolding. These steps may involve strategic positioning, maintaining exposure, or adjusting allocations. But the central point remains that action is being taken in response to the surge. Importantly, the focus remains on what is happening right now. The headline does not point to future projections, nor does it suggest specific outcomes. Instead, it concentrates on present activity. Gold and silver are surging again, and investors recognized for their strategic discipline are acting accordingly. The attention is squarely on current developments. This renewed upward movement also reinforces the relevance of precious metals within broader financial discussions. Whenever gold and silver experience noticeable price gains, market participants revisit their role within diversified portfolios. The headline captures that moment of renewed attention and highlights that experienced investors are not passive observers. They are engaged and responsive. In reviewing the first half of this detailed breakdown, it becomes clear that the core elements of the story revolve around two central facts. First, gold and silver are experiencing another surge. Second, smart investors are actively doing something in response to that surge. No additional interpretation is introduced. The focus remains factual and grounded in the information presented. The market environment surrounding precious metals can shift over time, but the current emphasis is strictly on the present surge. The wording suggests momentum strong enough to attract attention and to prompt measurable investor response. Such response is characterized by thoughtful action rather than speculation. As both metals rise again, investor behavior reflects awareness of the movement. Market participants are not acting randomly. Instead, their decisions appear connected directly to the renewed strength observed in gold and silver. This alignment between price movement and investor action forms the central narrative of the report. The renewed surge also signals that gold and silver remain influential components within financial markets. When prices move upward again, they re-enter the spotlight. Investors who prioritize careful strategy respond in ways consistent with disciplined portfolio management. The headline makes clear that action is underway and that action is happening now. Throughout this first half of the detailed breakdown, the facts remain unchanged. Gold and silver are surging again. Smart investors are responding at this moment. The report does not introduce external factors, additional data, or speculative reasoning. It stays centered on the observable relationship between renewed price momentum and investor activity. As we continue, the focus will shift further into how this renewed surge is shaping broader market attention and the continued actions being taken by investors in direct response to current conditions. In Part 3, we will examine the remaining details surrounding this development and complete the full picture of how the surge in gold and silver is influencing present-day investment behavior. Part 3. Continuing our in-depth coverage of the renewed movement in precious metals, attention remains firmly on the ongoing surge in gold and silver and the actions currently being taken by experienced investors. As established, both metals are rising again, and this development has prompted a measurable response within the investment community. In this segment, we further examine how this renewed upward momentum is shaping present-day behavior among market participants, while remaining strictly within the factual framework provided. The repeated surge in gold and silver places both assets back into a position of heightened visibility. When prices strengthen again, investors who actively monitor financial markets take notice. The phrase "surge again" indicates that this is part of a continuing pattern of movement rather than an isolated occurrence. Such repetition naturally reinforces awareness. Investors who prioritize discipline and strategic thinking respond not to emotion, but to observable price action. In this case, that price action is clearly upward. As gold and silver continue to gain attention due to their renewed strength, smart investors are described as taking action right now. This emphasis on immediacy underscores that responses are unfolding in the present moment. The focus remains entirely on what is currently happening without extending into speculation or forecasts. Investors are not portrayed as reacting impulsively, but rather as making considered decisions aligned with the present market situation. The surge itself serves as the central catalyst. When gold and silver rise again, it signals movement that cannot be ignored by those who follow these markets closely. Investors who maintain exposure to precious metals may review their current positions. Others who track price momentum may evaluate whether adjustments are warranted. The key element is that decisions are being made in direct response to the renewed upward trend. The description of smart investors highlights a group characterized by attentiveness and measured strategy. Their actions are not described in detail beyond the fact that they are actively doing something in response to the surge. This leaves the focus squarely on their engagement with current conditions. They are neither passive nor detached. Instead, they are attentive to the renewed rise in both metals and are acting accordingly. Gold's renewed strength reinforces its ongoing relevance within financial markets. At the same time, silver's concurrent movement ensures that attention is not limited to a single asset. Both metals are surging again, and both are part of the broader narrative. Investors who consider precious metals as part of their overall approach are therefore monitoring developments across both markets simultaneously. As this upward movement continues, the relationship between price activity and investor response remains clear. The surge itself draws attention. That attention leads to evaluation. Evaluation leads to action. This sequence is consistent with disciplined market participation. Smart investors respond to what is happening now, rather than relying on assumptions or unverified information. The headline makes it clear that their focus is current and active. The renewed rise in gold and silver also contributes to broader financial discussion. Whenever these metals experience upward momentum again, they return to the forefront of market conversation. Investors reassess their exposure. They consider whether their current allocations reflect present conditions. They remain aligned with observable trends rather than speculation. Importantly, no additional external factors are introduced in this report. The surge stands on its own as the defining development. Likewise, the actions of smart investors are presented strictly as responses to that surge. There are no references to outside influences, policy changes, or economic forecasts. The narrative remains tightly focused on the simple but significant fact that gold and silver are rising again and investors are responding now. This renewed activity reinforces the dynamic nature of financial markets. Asset prices move. Investors observe those movements. Decisions follow. In this instance, the upward movement in both metals has prompted active engagement. Smart investors are described as doing something right now, emphasizing immediacy and attentiveness. The absence of dramatic language or exaggerated claims further underscores the measured tone of this development. The surge is acknowledged. Investor response is acknowledged. Beyond that, no additional conclusions are drawn. This maintains a factual and objective framework, consistent with responsible reporting and professional financial communication. As the surge continues to unfold, market participants remain focused on current price behavior. Investors who prioritize strategy remain aligned with what is observable. Their actions are grounded in the present moment. Gold and silver are surging again, and their decisions reflect that reality. Throughout this second half of the detailed breakdown, the core message remains unchanged. Both metals are experiencing renewed upward momentum. Smart investors are actively responding in real time. There is no extension beyond these established facts. The emphasis remains on current conditions and observable behavior. With the full scope of the surge now outlined and the corresponding investor response clearly presented, the report moves toward its final segment. In Part 4, we will summarize the key points and provide a concise closing overview of the renewed surge in gold and silver and the actions taking place at this time. Part 4. gold and silver have once again moved higher, bringing renewed attention to both precious metals. The central focus of this report has remained clear and consistent. Gold and silver are surging again, and smart investors are responding right now. No additional interpretation has been introduced beyond that core development. The renewed upward movement signals that both metals have re-entered active financial discussion. When prices strengthen again, market participants take notice. This surge has prompted observable engagement from experienced investors who are paying close attention to present conditions. Their actions are described as deliberate and timely, reflecting awareness of the ongoing movement. Throughout this coverage, the emphasis has remained strictly on current developments. The report has not introduced forecasts, projections, or external analysis. It has remained centered on two confirmed points: the renewed surge in gold and silver, and the active response from disciplined investors. The relationship between these two elements forms the foundation of the story. Gold and silver are rising again. Smart investors are taking action in response. That is the complete and factual scope of the article. As both metals continue to draw attention, investor behavior reflects engagement with the present market environment. This concludes our report on the renewed surge in gold and silver and the actions being taken at this time.